our government's official position is not to speculate on this subject, we can choose to let our minds explore other possibilities, to use our imaginations. For if we consider that astroscientists agree on one point, that the possibility of life elsewhere is not only quite probable, some feel it is there without a doubt. Let us suppose then that these objects are real space vehicles, extraterrestrial in origin, and not an illusion of the mind.
There's nothing to hide. There's nothing to hide at all.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Somewhere in the Live Stream, an hour later than usual. So I do apologize to all of our regulars that usually tune in right at 4 p.m. ET. I know you carve it out in your schedules every Sunday. I do want to apologize. I had some stuff going on this morning where I had to bump it back an hour. And that stuff I'll get to in just a minute. Funny story that I want to share with you guys and with Suzanne, our amazing moderator who you see in the chat, and we'll be taking your questions and comments all night. So a huge hello and a thank you to her. A hello to all of you in the chat. The chat's been going for a while because I know some of you probably showed up at 4 p.m. So I want to say hello to all of the regulars. I'm not going to go down the list now. We do not have time. We got so much news to cover with you guys. But hello, a special hello to all of you. Before we get to the news this week on the live stream, I want to send my thoughts and prayers to everyone out in the greater Los Angeles area, SoCal in specific. I know that you guys are going through a lot right now. It's really hard to watch on television. So I want to send a special hello and all of our thoughts and prayers to everyone in Los Angeles who are dealing with this devastating wildfires. So I thought this week we would do our very, very small part and help in some way with what's going on there in Los Angeles County and abroad. I know it's crazy watching it all unfold. So what I thought to do is oftentimes when these sort of disasters happen, I remember I moved to Los Angeles during a wildfire, and that was crazy. And you don't necessarily hear about what happens to all the wildlife and the animals when these things happen. So while there's many charities and things set up to help people rebuild their homes, their lives, essentially after all of this, there's also places for the animals, whether it's shelters or humane societies and stuff like that. So I decided tonight that any super chats, any super stickers, any PayPal, and any Buy Me a Coffee donations throughout all of tonight, and let's say for the next 24 hours after this live stream, all of those donations will be given to the Pasadena Humane Society. They're dealing with so much right now, an influx of animals, whether they've just been abandoned or hurt or injured or burned or just left behind in these situations. Not just pets, but wildlife. They're taking in any animal that they can right now, and they're severely overwhelmed. And the best way that anyone can help is not only by adopting animals, but to help fund these incredible organizations. So again, all of our super chats, super stickers, PayPal donations, and Buy Me a Coffee donations will be going to the Pasadena Humane Society throughout the night tonight. And again, let's say for the next 24 hours after this live stream. You know what? No, 48, 58. Let's just do it for the whole week. How's that sound? Because I know this will be going out in podcast form as well. And I want to make sure that those listening to this in the future will also have the opportunity to donate. So unlimited, let's say all donations for the next week will be going to the Pasadena Humane Society. So thank you in advance to anyone who chooses to do that. And yeah, crazy stuff going on over there. And we just hope they get it all under control and that people can move on with their lives and rebuild as humans have to do. We are resilient creatures, that's for sure. So yes, one more time, sending my love, thoughts, and prayers to everyone in Los Angeles, especially if you're watching this right now. I hope we can distract you for just a little bit. So thank you, James Craig. Thank you so much, buddy. We truly appreciate that. Lots of dogs and cats and horses need your help. Yes, absolutely, man. Along with all the other wildlife. So thank you, bud. Thank you. Thank you. One other thing before we get to the news, we did extend our contest for Apple Podcast ratings and reviews. So if you would like to be a part of our contest, all I'm asking you to do is go over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review the Somewhere in the Skies podcast. We skyrocketed since we've started doing this contest, and we made it up to like number 30 in science on the Apple Podcast category. So we want to continue that momentum, and we did not hear from the winner of our contest when we announced it. So we have extended the contest to January 17th. 11:59 is the new deadline to get your rating and review in over on Apple Podcasts for the podcast. And the way that I'll know is if you send me a screenshot of your rating and review, that will go into a list along with the other people who submitted during the original contest. All of it will be put together, put through a random number generator, and we will pick a winner. And the deadline again is January 17th at 11:59 p.m. I will be making the announcement of our winner the next day. You will be winning the entire first volume of the Blue Book comic book, which is inspired by Project Blue Book, written by James Tinian, and incredible art by Michael Oyming, who is a regular on the show. He's been a speaker at Anomicon. They created the official Blue Book comic book, and it is so good. So you will be winning volume 1 of that and a special gift from me personally as well. And all you have to do is go over to Apple Podcasts, rate and review us, and send me a screenshot of that rating and review. You can email it to me or send it to me through DMs on Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, you name it. Possibilities are endless. All right. I think that's going to do it for all of that, guys. So let's get to the news for the week. Who's ready? Who's ready for some space news? Oh, I forgot. I promise one more thing before we get to that story. The reason we had to start an hour late this morning is because I'm currently on Oahu and I had to rent a car. I'm going through this new app called Turo. I'm sure some of you are familiar, where you can literally just rent cars from like people. It's almost like Airbnb, but for cars. Wonderful so far. I've loved it. We had a Turo that we returned yesterday, but we had to pick up a new rental today. You would think this would be a simple, easy process. It was the first time. And I'm going to be honest, it wasn't hard this time, but it was a little different. I'm not going to lie, because the car I had to pick up was in the barracks on a military installation here in Hawaii. So, of course, I brought my license with me. I would expect that would be needed, especially to get onto a military base. But we had to be driven to the military base. So Jane's incredible mother drove us, me and Jane, to go pick up this car, right? And the people who we were renting from, they weren't there, so they were just leaving the car for us. And we pull up to the security gate, and they're like, "All right, we need IDs from everyone." And we're like, "Oh, okay." They're not joking around here. So, Jane's mom gives them her ID. I give them mine. They said mine wasn't a federal ID. So that was a whole thing. I had to give them more ID. Poor Jane, unfortunately didn't have any ID on her. We didn't expect she would need it. But they wouldn't let her in. So she had to wander off of the base and wait for us to go get this car. Oh my God. But anyways, because they wouldn't accept certain forms of ID and whatnot, Patty and I had to get kind of a debriefing or whatever to get into this base. And hers was all fine. They took her picture, took her social security, all that stuff. And then I get in there and I sit there and I give them my social security number, and it's just dead silent while this base security guy is like, I guess looking into me or whatever. And he all of a sudden just goes, "Huh, interesting. Have a good day." And then that was it. And then they let me on. But I don't know what that was all about. I don't know if he was just messing with me. But yeah, it was fun. Maybe they're looking into my UAP work. I don't know. But that was hilarious. Maybe he was just pranking me. I don't know. But yeah, I've got this to prove it. I'm now officially on their list, I guess. All this to say, got the car, everything's good. Love the car, and that's going to be getting me around the island for the next few days. So the end. And then I found $20. That was my convoluted story for you guys. I hope you enjoyed that so much that I need to pop one open tonight. I'm sorry. It's officially 12 p.m. here on the island. So I'm going with a Pacifico tonight. Cheers to all of you guys out there. What are you drinking? Where are you watching from? Let me know in the chat. I love learning about that stuff. No coffee today. No coffee. He saw your YouTube profile, James Craig says. Exactly, man. Exactly. At least they let you in, Jay Little said. That's true. That's true. Pearl Hickam, Dalen says, no, it was not. Dalen, I'll let you know off air where it was. For sure. It was interesting. I've never been on an active military base before. I've been on inactive ones, investigating like UFO stuff, but I've never been on an active military base. So that was eye-opening to say the least. Really interesting. But yeah. Virginia, Denmark, love it. Ryan unwittingly enrolled in an NDA on the base and can no longer discuss UFOs. Yeah, if there's no live stream next week, you're going to know why. Winnipeg, hello to Chris Rutkowski. Chris, we got a wonderful story later, buddy, about your guy up there, Larry McGuire. So stay tuned, my man. Good to see and hear from you. Guys, you'll be seeing Chris in my upcoming documentary about the Shag Harbor UFO incident. I'm hard at work on it. I cannot wait for you guys to see this when it gets done. Oh, wow, I missed a bunch of the donations for the Pasadena Humane Society. Thank you, Eve. Praying for the animals. We truly appreciate it. Thank you. Biologist, how will you notify the winner? We will notify you through our social media, the Biologist, Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook group, and I'll announce it on the podcast as well the following week if need be. Pat Gallagher, thank you so much, buddy. Please help our furry friends. Thank you, Pat Gallagher. And a big thank you to Ashley as well. You guys are the best. Thank you. Guys, if you can't help the show monetarily, completely understand. If you could just like, subscribe, share the show, do all that good stuff. That's all we could ever ask of you. So thank you. From Greece, from Belfast. Dang, you guys are listening late. I know it's getting late over there. So thank you. Truly appreciate y'all being here. Men in Black are going to appear at your door. No. I hope not. Okay. We got to get to it. Let's get to it. The meat of the live stream, our news for the week. We're starting with a really fun, interesting, exciting story that has to do with space, guys. So let's pull up our good old slideshow. Oh, I forgot our first slide. That was for the Pasadena Humane. Oh, look at that cat and that dog. Come on. After seeing that, guys, you got to help. All right. So our first story of the night. Inside the faraway planet where scientists have found stunning signs of life. We're getting closer, guys. We are inching closer to finding life on these exoplanets. And I know we talk all the time about life having visited our planet. But look, when these two finally converge, and these anecdotal stories we've heard for centuries now of people visiting our planet, when they finally converge with us finding, hopefully, some sort of intelligent life on other planets, exoplanets to be specific, man, that is going to be the convergence of the ages. And it looks like we're getting closer. So this story comes to us from the BBC. NASA's James Webb Telescope has reportedly found potential signs of life on an exoplanet called K2-18b. So what we're going to do right now, guys, is watch a clip from the BBC News where they interview University of Cambridge professor Niku Madhustan, who led the research while speaking with BBC. He led the research on this amazing, look for life out there. And so let's give this clip a watch, and we're going to learn more about this planet, why they think it might have signatures of life, and what we do now with the James Webb Telescope to try to determine that. So give this a watch.
To you about this?
Very excited, but also very cautious on what we are going to find and what the implications would be.
Okay, well, what would be the best result in terms of what you could find?
So there are two end member scenarios, so to speak. So we might find a very strong signal of dimethyl sulfide, showing us that robustly it is there in the atmosphere of this planet. And that would be quite remarkable.
And the consequences of that?
The consequences are immense because you have to realize this is the first time we are seeing an Earth-like biomarker, would be seeing, if it's confirmed, in a planet outside the solar system. Now, it could be from life on that planet, or it could be from some other mechanism that we have never heard of before. Either way, it's going to be groundbreaking.
You used the word biomarker there. So the biomarker is the indication that life is there, has been there, or was there. Is that right?
Is there, yeah.
Is there.
Yeah.
So if you find the biomarker, there is life on that planet.
So that is the bit we can't say for sure, because it would be for an Earth-like planet. It is on Earth, but for this kind of a planet, we have to understand whether it is a robust signature given the context, the environment of that planet. So that is also an open question that we need to look into.
All right, first stupid question. How does a telescope see gas?
So you look at the starlight as the planet is going in front of it. So some of that starlight passes through the atmosphere of the planet.
Starlight, so,
yeah.
okay, right.
So this is a transit we are talking about. So that starlight passes through the atmosphere of the planet before reaching the telescope. And imprinted on that starlight are features, absorption features due to the molecules in the atmosphere of the planet. So they're tiny features. We're talking about a part in 100,000. But then we have the techniques to take that spectrum and extract the chemicals, the abundances of the chemicals in the atmosphere of the planet.
Professor, the name of the department within which you work at Cambridge University is what?
So I work at the Institute of Astronomy at the University of Cambridge, but I'm also part of a wider center, the Leverhulme Center for Life in the Universe at Cambridge.
So there's a Centre for Life in the Universe,
right,
which is dedicated to investigating whether there is life elsewhere.
Yeah.
And within your scientific community, can I ask you this as a scientist? Do you think, not necessarily talking about the evidence, do you think there is life outside of what we know here?
So there is my personal opinion is that there is a high chance that there is life elsewhere. Yes.
Why?
Just the statistics. 30 years ago, we knew of no planet outside the solar system. Today, our statistics are like almost every star out there has a planet around it. So we're really living in a profound time in the history of our species. So if you just extrapolate what we are finding for the numbers of planets and the kinds of planets we are seeing, it almost feels like a certainty that there's got to be some kind of life elsewhere.
The implications, I mean, you're a scientist, but the truth is that the implications of that discovery, as and when it can be kind of confirmed, or I don't know what the phraseology, the implications are, well, it's so hard to comprehend, isn't it?
They're immense because they're on all levels, from societal, philosophical, scientific. They're huge. This is why we are extremely careful in making any statements of confirmation.
The telescope at the moment, the James Webb Telescope, is looking at a planet which is imaginatively named K2-18b. OK. K2-18b, you have a theory, don't you, that it is like a water world. So how big is it compared to Earth? And when you say a water world, What's a water world?
So we call it a Haitian world, which is a combination of hydrogen and ocean. So this is an ocean world covered entirely in oceans, and you won't see any landmass at all. And these oceans...
What's under the ocean then?
Deep ocean, 100 kilometers or more
what's
of
at the
ocean.
bottom of the ocean?
Very, very deep underneath could be rock, could be a core, but you never actually reach that core because it's just hundreds of kilometers of ocean and then ice that turns into high pressure ice at the bottom. So you have a ice floor and then ocean, deep ocean.
So how big is it compared to Earth?
So it's 2.5 times Earth size and about 9 Earth masses.
And if it's got water, if it's a Haitian, you said, mixture of hydrogen and water.
Hydrogen and oxygen.
Oxygen.
Hydrogen and ocean. Yeah.
Ocean. Well, ocean's water, yeah?
Yeah.
So it's got to have life.
It's got to have the right temperature and pressure, and we think this planet can have those. But yes, you're right. So we think it is habitable in principle, but we have to establish that with our observations.
There we go. Did she really ask, are oceans water? Anyways, I know. I see you guys in the chat saying these two anchors are pretty dismissive and annoying. It's like one of those morning shows like Breakfast with the BBC or whatever. So like you could tell they took it a little light, but the questions weren't bad. They weren't bad. I find it fascinating, the water world concept, like that this is literally just endless ocean. There's no land masses whatsoever. It's almost hard to like imagine that. I know they did in the movie Waterworld, but other than that, like, man, just the potential for some sort of life on a planet made fully of what do you say, Haitian, hydrogen and ocean. It's just so exciting. So I can't wait to see the further studies on this. One more quote I had from an article about this as well, where Professor Niku said, our ultimate goal is the identification of life on a habitable exoplanet, which would transform our understanding of our place in the universe. Our findings are a promising first step in this direction. First step. Long way to go, but this is exciting nonetheless. And look, the minute James Webb got up there, everything changed. Like someone said in the chat, it seems like the minute they put that thing up there, they were like starting to prepare us. Like, hold on to your butts, because once this telescope's up there, we're going to make some dramatic discoveries. And it looks like we damn well are. So awesome. I thought that was a really cool story to start with. Really, really cool story. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. We're moving to a segment of the show that I'm calling UFO sightings. So I've got a bunch for you. Just imagining that scroll going across the screen right now. UFO sightings here on Somewhere in the Skies. We're going to start with a story that Suzanne brought me, actually. This is sort of breaking, about a UFO sighting that happened, that was reported, I should say, by a flight crew over Fort Lauderdale. A Fort Lauderdale flight crew who spotted a UFO and got video. So we're going to see some video. If you guys haven't noticed, I haven't shown UFO videos on the show in a really long time because it's just so hard to like put any credence to any of them anymore in today's world of CGI and deep fakes and, you know, the apps that come out that you can literally just put a UFO into your video, blah, 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 blah. This was a documented UFO sighting and an official video taken by a flight attendant. So I do put some stock into this one. So let's go ahead and watch another clip about this story, a little background. On December 23rd, do I have a slide for this? I don't. Okay, on December 23rd, a flight crew was flying back to Fort Lauderdale in an empty jet high over the Bahamas when they spotted a glowing spherical object darting about too much to be a weather balloon. And there's video. So let's go ahead and watch this, and we'll talk a little bit more about this first segment of UFO sightings on Somewhere in the Sky. I'll work on it. Watch this video. Way better than me singing.
on board a private jet spotted something high in the sky, and they shot this video of it, and they have no idea what they saw that night. Ari Odzer is joining us now from Fort Lauderdale with a first-hand account of this very bizarre sighting, Ari.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And there was definitely something in the sky that night. It was way too high to be a drone, moving way too fast and erratically to be a weather balloon. And the flight attendant who shot the video says several other aircraft reported seeing the same thing. The aerospace world is full of flying machines that we all recognize. But sometimes people see things in the sky that defy explanation.
It started as white, and then it just got green and almost like an electric, some type of energy around it.
Cassandra Martin is a flight attendant for Surjet, a private air service. On the night of December 23rd, she says she and two pilots were flying back to Fort Lauderdale in an empty jet high over the Bahamas when air traffic control sent a message.
When all of a sudden I heard traffic control say, "We have a foreign object, can you please identify?" I looked to the left and the pilot saw 3 objects, I only saw 1. And I grabbed my phone and I just pressed it to the window to see if I can get a video of what the object was. I don't know what it was. And then I zoomed in as much as the phone allowed me to. And the object was white. And then it turned slightly green, almost kind of like an electric field around it of some sort. And it stayed with us for about 45 minutes, and then we didn't see it again. And we were about 45,000 feet, and it was way above us.
What was the chatter like in the cockpit between you, the co-pilot, and the pilot as to what you were seeing?
I think we were astonished, and it was something that you really can't explain, but I don't have the qualifications to know what that is.
Having seen her video, what do you make of it?
Well, I think the video is compelling.
Brian Bender is a defense expert who works with a group founded by military pilots called Americans for Safe Aerospace. Any idea what that could be?
So, this video and this testimony rhymes a lot with a number of cases that we heard from military pilots going back even 10 or 15 years. And that is these orbs, or in some cases they call them tic tacs. They were more sort of oblong in shape, but flying at very high altitudes, but then also being able to maneuver in ways that don't seem to make a lot of sense to us, at least as we know physics.
Was it a little bit eerie? Yes, because again, we were pretty high up, and whatever we saw was even higher than us, and it had the capability just to zigzag and change color. So that was a little, daunting to say the least. But it was also something fascinating that I was able to see and capture with my phone.
So cool. Ugh. Am I? No, I'm not muted. Okay. That's our first UFO sighting for tonight, guys. It looks like Bledsoe's orbs, Gabriel says. Yeah, UFOs are a hot potato in Fort Lauderdale in the late 80s, Christian says. Interesting. Was that the Gulf Breeze sightings? Am I getting that wrong? I love that commercial flight personnel are getting bolder about reporting their sightings, Eve says. Yes, that is kind of the main reason I wanted to share that clip with you guys. Is it's so good to see commercial pilots now reporting these things. I've had many reach out to me anonymously throughout the years who wanted to report to me about a sighting they had, which is fine. Like, I'm always willing to take down witness testimony. That's my thing. And at least it's like kind of archived somewhere. But the fact that now, like, the stigma is shedded and commercial pilots are actually reporting these to their superiors, to the flight tower in real time, taking out their phones and getting video, that's exciting. Like that feeling of, what's going to happen if I talk about this, or if I put this video out there? Am I going to get reprimanded? Am I going to get in trouble? It depends. It depends on the security of the flight you're on, or if it's a military plane or pilot, that might be a different story. But with commercial pilots, I'm sure it's a little more laxed. And I loved this flight attendant being like, I don't know. I can't say for sure what it was, what it wasn't. But this is what it did. This is what I observed. Here's the video. And I will say this. Most orb videos are just like a star. the moon, Starlink, a satellite, whatever. But that thing looked different. Again, could be the resolution, could be the amount she zoomed in, could be many, many factors. But I found the video more compelling than most orb videos. So it was interesting. It was interesting. I found it weird that they interviewed Brian Bender. I mean, that's like a good get. Like, that's great that they interviewed him with his past work on the UFO topic. But I honestly didn't think he was talking about UFOs anymore. He'd sort of like threw his hands up and walked away from the UFO thing. So it was interesting to see him comment on this. I don't necessarily agree with his connections to Tic Tacs. Maybe in the maneuvering of like the Tic Tac and what some of these orbs have been said to do, but I do not think that this video in any way, shape, or form represented anything close to what the Tic Tacs were. So that was kind of weird comparison, but whatever. Like, make of it what you will. You're being interviewed for 10 minutes. Like, you got to say something, and you want to try to connect it to the overall UFO mystery or what's currently going on in the world of UFOs. So, yeah, just a little bit of, I guess, critique of that, but he did a great job. Nonetheless, UFOs are real. Michael Huntington says, "Welcome, Michael, and everyone else new in the chat. Good to see you guys." Cool. Let's move to our next UFO sighting on Somewhere in the Skies. Who's a NASCAR fan? Do we have any race car fans out there? I used to love race car driving. Wow. Me like cars, racing, wheels, driving, roads, winning. My grandfather and my dad were really into racing. We used to go to a stock car racing place in upstate New York when I was a kid. That was so fun getting to watch the races. It was so loud. I remember wearing noise canceling earphones at the time. This is back in like the 90s. But yeah, I would go to the races with my dad and my grandfather and even my great grandfather. They all had a huge interest in racing. I believe my grandfather even worked on race cars at one point. So we have a history in the Sprague family when it comes to racing and NASCAR and stuff like that. Do you guys have a favorite NASCAR racer? Let me know in the chat. But that's going to be what our next story is about, because apparently NASCAR legend Mark Martin had a really strange UFO sighting while in midair. And there was almost a collision, which is a story we're going to get to later in the show. But Mark Martin is very well known in the world of NASCAR. He's a Hall-of-Famer. He won something like 40 or 60 cups in his time racing. So super cool dude. I've definitely followed his career throughout the years when he was racing. And he had a UFO sighting while he was personally flying a plane. He had a license, flying a plane to Daytona to race, Daytona 500, the big, like the Super Bowl of racing, basically. So he was on his way to Daytona to race, and he had a crazy UFO sighting. So I'm going to go ahead and play this clip. I do apologize. I don't have the name of the podcast where we got this from, but I do want to shout them out because they were the first to get this story. I'm just broadcasting it with you guys here. I'll try to find that out and put it in the show notes later. But go ahead and give this a watch. This is a very fascinating UFO sighting from Mark Martin, the NASCAR racer. Give this a watch.
Last night. There's been a lot going back to where we started, the crazy 2024. A lot of UFO sightings, a lot of drones, a lot of speculation. Not a lot of answers though, and it ties into you, which blew my mind last night when I did get the message. But apparently, in the late 90s, you had a UFO sighting. You experienced a UFO. Can you what happened? What's the story?
So we were coming home, just me and my pilot in my jet. We were coming back from one of the Northeast races, either Loudon or couldn't have been Pocono. I don't know if it was at Loudon or if it was Dover or where it was. we were coming home. It was late though. That's the thing I don't understand. But it was dark, dark, and we fly at 45,000 feet. But going over Jacksonville, going home to Daytona where I lived, they would bring you down to 18,000 feet or so. We were descending for some reason. A lot of times after the race, I would get in the back and it was a single pilot aircraft. So I'd let my pilot fly me home and I'd sit back there and rehash the race or something, or just relax. But this particular time, and I did it from time to time, I wanted to fly. So I'm in the pilot seat, and Jason Simpson was my co-pilot. He was in the right seat, and we're descending through Jacksonville, about 19,000 feet, and there's no stars out. So it's black, everything except the lights in Daytona, Orlando, and, Miami. You can see the lights down at Miami even.
Right.
And I see a light that is solid white light, little solid light that's not flashing. And that could only be like a landing light, is the only thing that would make sense. That would be a spotlight looking light like that. And it would have to be far away because I couldn't see the green and red wingtip lights, because they got a green one and a red one, and the red one is on the right. That way you know if a plane's coming toward you or going away. You see,
Okay.
You get me?
Yeah.
You know which side the light's on. So none of that. Didn't see any of that. So I keep it in my eye. I keep checking up there and keep checking over there, and it gets closer and closer. And I didn't say anything to Jason. I'm flying along and it gets close. And finally I just I fixate on it. It's plane's on autopilot. So all I have to do is manage the computer, And so I'm fixated on it, and it gets closer and closer and closer. And then it gets like, oh my God, we're going to hit that. And I grabbed the yoke and kicked it off autopilot and was getting ready to jerk the plane to the right. And Jason was like, what? And I said, look. And when he looked, he pulled out a camera. He had a camera on him, and he pulled out a camera and he put it up there in the windshield and tried to take a picture because he saw it. It wasn't like I'm saying something. We both saw this, and I thought we were going to hit it. Then it starts pulling away, gradually pulling away, slowly pulling away.
Is it moving slow, fast? Like, is it
slow? It's slow. It gradually came toward, we were converging like head on, it seemed like.
Playing chicken with the UFO, yeah.
Yeah, and then it started gradually going away, and as it goes away, the light gets smaller. It never changed. The light never changed. The light's getting smaller. And so, Jason and I are like, holy crap, and he thought, I didn't say, I told him, pointed at it, and he went grabbing for his camera because he saw it. And so we get handed off. So I put it back on autopilot and continue my descent down toward Daytona, and right on the other south side of Jacksonville, they switch us over to Daytona approach. I'm sorry, Jacksonville approach. So they switch us from Jack Center to Jack's approach. As soon as I get on there, I say, Jason actually checks in on the radio with them and says, you got anything, we saw something up here. Do you have an aircraft? No, there's nothing there. We fly along a little bit more, and he comes on the radio and he says, we really thought we were going to hit something up here. And the controller comes back. He says, there's nothing between you and Orlando.
Wow.
Not an aircraft, because it was late at night. I'm going to say it's 11 p.m. Nothing between you and Orlando. And this light was above the lights in Miami. So it wasn't down, it wasn't on the ground. It was in the air because, it was above the Miami lights.
Right.
So it was in the sky. And we did the same thing. We when we got with the next controller, we asked them, nothing between you and Orlando, nothing. And it finally, we descended into Daytona and went home. But I was thinking about this the other day. It's like, well, it's something kind of funny you could say. I know what I saw, but I don't know what I saw.
Yeah. No, I mean, so he took a picture. Did he have a picture? Did it come out? I mean, were we talking Kodak crank wheel?
Yep. It was a crank wheel with a flash, though. And so the flash ruined it because of the glass. So it was just a flash bright light photo. And so we didn't get anything. But to this day, and that kid went on to FedEx and is I think he's a captain of a 747 now. So
holy crap.
And he'll still tell, I'm sure he would still tell the story that we saw something that wasn't on the radar.
How cool. I love that. I know what I saw, but I don't know what I saw. I love that quote, man. Everyone's commenting on both the mustache and the accent. Hey, it's NASCAR, baby. It is NASCAR. Grab your Pabst Blue Ribbon and let's go. That was an awesome story. Apologies, he wasn't on his way to a race. He was coming home from a race, going home to Daytona. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is the YouTube channel. I did find it. Chase Holden. Thank you so much for letting us play your entire clip here, brother. From there, you guys can click that link and watch the full interview. Fascinating career with this guy, other than the UFO sighting. So be sure to subscribe to Chase Holden's YouTube channel. We got the link for you right there, guys. And Mark Martin, I posted this. I tagged him on Twitter, and he actually liked and retweeted it. So who knows? Maybe we'll get him on the show to go a little bit more in depth. These mid-air UFO sightings just fascinate me. And we're not done. We're not done with UFO sightings here on Somewhere in the Skies. We have one more for you guys. And then we're moving to some more dramatic UFO sightings. We're talking about a mid-air collision that just happened with a UFO. No, not the drone and the plane in the LA wildfires, a different one. So let's get to our last UFO sighting in this section, and then we're going to take a little quick break, I think. Are we? Yeah, we're going to take a quick break and then come back and talk about a mid-air collision that just happened with a UFO. But we're moving from a flight attendant, NASCAR racer, to how about an astronaut? Let's talk about an astronaut who had a UFO sighting. So this story comes to us with a headline, "Smooth, shiny sphere came right at a NASA astronaut." What? That's crazy. So let's hear from this individual. This is NASA astronaut Leroy Chow, who previously flew 4 space shuttle missions. And he reported seeing metallic sphere UFOs flying above him over Texas back in 2023. So he was clearly on Earth flying a plane at the time. But that doesn't take away from this. So let's go ahead and give this a watch and talk a little bit more on the other side.
A former astronaut who spent 15 years with NASA says he came into contact not with a drone, but another unidentified object last summer. Joining me now is that former astronaut, Leroy Chow. Leroy, thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but you were piloting your plane from Colorado back home to Texas when this happened to you. Has this kept you up at night, like not knowing what you saw or what that was?
Well, it is pretty strange. It hasn't kept me up per se, but I did come into contact with, or almost came into contact with, these 2 spherical metallic, basically chrome orbs about 3 feet in diameter, one on top of the other. And they passed within 20 feet of my airplane on the left side, going the opposite direction just below. And I got a good look at them, and I didn't know what they were at the time, and I kind of continued to believe they were probably part of some kind of a secret program, a government program for advanced drones, but I have no way of knowing. My biggest concern, and I didn't even have time to get scared because they just whizzed by me so quickly. There wasn't even time for that. So it remains a mystery. I don't know. I have no way of knowing what happened.
Yeah. So you say 20 feet away. That was real close to not being good for you and your airplane.
Right, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I was on an instrument flight plan, which means I was under positive control by air traffic control, and they will alert you if there's other air traffic near you. I had, my airplane is equipped, as all airplanes are required to be equipped, with the FAA-approved devices that allow you to basically see all the traffic in your area on a display like an iPad, and nothing showed up there, and so it was a big mystery.
Yeah, I have my private pilot's license. I'm just VFR. I don't have IFR yet, but I was thinking to myself when I was reading your story, did Tower not tell you, that this was coming? Nothing showed up on your instruments? I mean, that's wild. Right. Have you ever seen anything like this before?
No, never. This is the first and only time I've ever seen it. It was a little bit earlier this year in August, so nothing before or since.
And your resume, I mean, you have such a lengthy and impressive resume. 3 space shuttle flights. You were the commander on the Expedition 10. You have no reason to make this up. Have you gotten any pushback, after coming public with your story?
No, actually, I kind of kept it to myself. I told a few people about it at the time, but really hadn't talked about it till I was asked on an interview on, if I had seen anything strange before. And I just, like I said, at the time, I assumed it was a secret government program. And so, I hadn't talked about it till being asked. But no, I haven't really gotten any pushback.
Yeah, good. So what's your take on what we've seen the past, month and change over the Northeast and these drones over Jersey? You think the government knows more than they're telling us?
Well, it's mysterious. I would hope that our government would be able to track and detect things like this, because obviously an enemy could use this kind of thing if we couldn't, to cause some kind of issues for us. So I guess I have a hard time believing the government is telling us everything they know about what these things are. Interesting, as you reported, that since the FAA temporary flight restrictions went up, that the activity has dropped off dramatically. That's interesting. That suggests it is, civilian operators of commercial drones. But some of these things, I guess, are pretty huge. So it's hard to believe somebody has the resources to, buy a fleet of these things and operate them the way that has been reported.
Yeah, and locals and, Americans just want answers, more transparency here. Leroy Chow, thank you for sharing your story. I'm glad you lived to tell the tale of those silver orbs in the sky this summer. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Man, it's so much to unpack in just that one clip. Like a former NASA astronaut, 3 missions, I think she said. I thought it was 4. He was a commander at a time, had a near miss by, what did he say? What did she say? 20 feet of a metal sphere? That is insane. That is insane. And then his thoughts on the drone activity. And I don't know. I mean, it's definitely decreased, but I don't think commercial civilians have the capabilities or the wherewithal for the armadas of drones that were being reported. So I don't know, a lot was being said in that one interview. So interesting. I hope we hear more from Leroy in the future when it comes to all of this. The reason I ended with this one, guys, is because of this could possibly, and same with Mark Martin, the race car driver, these could have been mid-air collisions with a UFO, easily. And apparently, this is happening a lot more than we think. So this is going to move us to our next story. After this one, I promise we're going to take a quick commercial break, come back with 2 more exciting stories for you guys. But this story is about a near miss with a UFO and a plane that recently occurred. So I'm going to go ahead. Basically, we learned about this from Ryan Graves, of all people, of course, right? Having founded in an organization that's dealing with aerospace safety and whatnot, with UFOs and whatnot. He was reached out to about this story. So the FAA recently confirmed that a Gulfstream G550 experienced a mid-air collision with a mysterious object at FL 270 in Miami airspace on December 11th. Man, Florida has got it going on with UFOs, apparently. I don't know what that's all about. This was during a flight from Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport. Interesting. Fort Lauderdale, same as the first story. And it was on its way to New York's Westchester County Airport. According to the FAA statement, the twin jet diverted to and landed safely at Palm Beach International Airport after the pilot reported striking an object in Miami airspace. Little information is available publicly about the incident other than an entry on Flight Safety Foundation's Aviation Safety Network website and a post on Twitter by Ryan Graves, co-founder and executive director of Americans for Safe Aerospace. According to Ryan Graves' post, one of the G550's engines failed after the encounter with a UAP metallic object at approximately 27,000 feet. Graves described the reporter, who was not one of the G550's pilots, as a whistleblower. Interesting that he would use that term. The whistleblower is concerned because this altitude is highly regulated Class A airspace that requires flight plans and transponders. But in this instance, there were no flight plans for the object, and the object was not squawking a transporter code. So, yeah, squawking's interesting. Look into it, guys. These are literally like pulses or noises that a craft will give off to another craft if they're getting too close to one another or to identify one another. Ryan Graves went on to say, we can largely eliminate the possibility of common objects because a weather balloon would have been transponding. This altitude is too high for hobby drones and illegal for any drone. There is no biological indicator of a bird strike, and video of the engine shows metal damage. At first I was like, drone. It was definitely a drone. But, I mean, like you said, the altitude, the restricted airspace, I mean, unless it was breaching that. But the significant metal damage definitely caught my eye, too. Graves, former lieutenant and FA-18F pilot, wrote, I'm concerned the incident is being downplayed by the FAA. The report is being classified as an incident and not an accident, which would require public announcement, investigation, and an explanation. Interesting. He goes on to sort of talk about what an accident is versus an incident. I'll skip past that. As to whether a balloon and its payload could have been the UAP, not all balloons are transponder equipped, according to the FAA. They would say some operators have equipped their balloons with transponder beacons in addition to a radar reflection device or material required by 14 CFR section 101.35. Tell me about it, right? I hate that one. But as a cruise altitude, the balloon's communications equipment and transponder, if so equipped, are operated intermittently to conserve battery energy. So FAA saying one thing, Ryan Graves is saying another. We have to look at the motivations on both ends. This is clearly this was a very dangerous thing that happened. A plane was damaged. It hit something. So the FAA wants to properly investigate this, probably before putting out anything about it publicly. But then, lo and behold, here comes Ryan Graves and kind of like blowing up their spot and being like, this is a UAP. Like, this was not a drone. So if they come forward and say it was, don't believe them. Those are my words. Those are not Ryan Graves. I'm kind of making an assumption there. But we also have to look at the motivations of someone like Ryan Graves. Really nice guy, gentleman through and through. I've spoken to him. Suzanne has spoken to him, and he has this company. It's a company, and their job is to look for incidents like this and to stop them, prevent them even. So of course, he's going to highlight this incident because it's a prime example of what his company stands for. I'm not saying he's exploiting it or anything, but I'm just saying there's a reason Ryan Graves is talking about this. So it's incident nonetheless. And then if you're watching this on YouTube, I did put up an image as well. There is an image there from Vetted podcast showing the engine of a similar aircraft that was presumably damaged during this event. But the bottom image is one of those planes that Canada brought over to Los Angeles to scoop up, billions and billions of buckets of water and put them on the wildfires. Canada brought 2 of these planes over to Los Angeles to help in the efforts to try to stop these wildfires. And what happened just a couple days ago? A drone crashed into one of these and took it out. It had to make an emergency landing and therefore could not help in the efforts to stop these wildfires. Insane. So we're going from one more enigmatic, mysterious mid-air collision with what Ryan Graves brought up to a straight up drone by a journalist, by a reporter who had a drone up there. Inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable. And there's no Ryan Graves even mentioned in a future tweet, or a tweet after this, there's no repercussions really set for things like this. So I'm sorry. I know the drone operator didn't mean for this to happen, but it should not have been there. And it presumably caused irreparable damage to both this aircraft, to the fires it could have prevented, to the lives it could have saved. So yeah, I hope that this drone operator is punished severely for this. No excuse whatsoever. All of this to say, UFOs are crashing into planes, and that's not okay. Something needs to be done about it. So we'll see. We'll see if we get any more information about this and where we go from here. But man, the wildfire plane drone thing just really pissed me off when I learned about that. So all right, guys, let's take a very quick break, and we're going to come back with a very interesting story about what the FBI in the US and the Danish police are investigating when it comes to UFO incidents as Baltic tensions rise. So stick around. We will be right back. Watch this commercial. Grab a drink. You're going to need it for these next 2 stories. We're ending the night with the bombshell, I guess, about a meeting that took place with a minister of parliament in Canada and David Grusch, almost a year prior to Grusch coming forward. Really interesting. So we'll talk about those on the other side, guys. Stick with us, and I'll see you in just a minute. Greetings, everyone. Ryan Sprague here, host of Somewhere in the Skies. For over 7 years and more than 400 episodes, the Somewhere in the Skies podcast has always been free to listen to, but it's not free to create. So we offer several ways to help support our efforts and get rewards in return. If you listen to the podcast on Apple, you can click the subscribe button at the top of your Somewhere in the Skies feed to become a premium Apple subscriber. Or you can join our Patreon campaign with several tiers available. Both of these options give you the same benefits and rewards: ad-free episodes, early access to the main show, and bonus episodes and content. Help keep the lights on at the Somewhere in the Skies HQ, and help us continue to grow by becoming a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/somewhereskies, or by clicking the subscribe button at the top of your Apple feed. Thank you for your continued support, and keep looking up. All right, welcome back to Somewhere in the Live Stream. We're so happy to have you guys here across all social media, on YouTube and Twitch. Hello to our Twitchers over there. Twitching out. I totally forgot to shout you guys out at the beginning, so I apologize. But welcome, guys. We are breaking down all the latest UFO news and headlines. And before we go any further, I do want to once again mention that all super chats, super stickers, PayPal, and Buy Me a Coffee donations for tonight, and I think I am going to do it for the next week or so, because this will be a podcast as well, are going to go to the Pasadena Humane Society. Again, like we mentioned, the LA wildfires are just devastating right now to humans and animals and the planet itself alike. But we decided that we want to help out the animals. They are often overlooked when it comes to disasters like this, whether it's wildlife or domesticated animals, pets even. They are often forgotten about when these things happen. Sometimes they're abandoned. Sometimes they're just wildlife looking for refuge. And oftentimes they are brought to places like the Pasadena Humane Society, who right now are severely overwhelmed, understaffed, and underfunded right now, dealing with everything going on over in Los Angeles. So we want to help out the Pasadena Humane Society in some small way. So once again, all of your super chats, super stickers, PayPal, and Buy Me a Coffees will be going to the Pasadena Humane Society for about the next week or so. So yeah, you can get those in right here, or if you're listening to this in the future on the podcast, you can surely donate to our PayPal and our Buy Me a Coffee as well. So thank you guys. Thank you in advance for helping in any way with that. If you can't help monetarily, share the Pasadena Humane's website. I believe it's pasadenahumane.org, and you can help there directly too. All right, let us move to our next story. And I did see Christian in the chat. A huge shout out to Christian Thompson, the creator of the UAPDB. Be sure to check that out, guys. But he said, ask me about the drugs in Denmark. Give it to us, man. Let us know what's going on. Things seem to have slowed down a little bit over in the US, even in the UK. But I am curious what's going on over in Denmark. 3 days of drones south of Copenhagen at a harbor. They had military stuff for the Baltic. Danish police, boom, are on the case. Brother, that is a story we're about to cover. It's all coming together. I love it. I love it. We're on top of it. So let's get to that story. And Christian, please feel free to elaborate on anything we cover with this. So yes, this story comes to us from Euro Weekly News. The FBI and Danish police investigate mysterious UFO incidents amid Baltic tensions. So I'm going to go ahead and read from the article. Danish police have launched an investigation after at least 20 unidentified flying objects, possibly unknown drones, were spotted over the port city of Køge, southwest of Copenhagen. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Køge? Please let me know, Christian. Oh, boy. The sightings reported on January 3rd by a visibly shaken eyewitness have raised eyebrows and sparked widespread speculation. Authorities stated that no permits were issued for drone flights in the area that were made during these events. The Danish police immediately alerted Denmark's Domestic Intelligence Service, PET, but the origins of these mysterious flying objects remains unknown. With tensions rising across the Baltic region, the sighting in Køge comes at a time when Nordic and Baltic nations are on high alert, worried that these unknown flying objects may be connected to growing fears of Russian hybrid warfare. The recent string of incidents involving damaged undersea cables only fuels this theory. Excuse me. Continuing here, just this November, 2 fiber optic cables were severed in the Baltic Sea, sparking further fears of sabotage. Swedish authorities are also investigating a Chinese vessel as part of the inquiry, casting yet another shadow over this growing mystery. But the odd sightings aren't confined to Denmark alone. Around the world, reports of UAP are on the rise. They go on to talk about what happened in New Jersey. In the U.S., fleets of UAP have been hovering above power stations, airports, and other sensitive sites, sparking widespread concern and speculation about what or who is behind them. And then in the UK, mystery drones appeared above U.S. force bases, while in Germany, similar objects are spotted over military and industrial sites, including the Ramstein U.S. Air Base. With more countries becoming involved, it's clear that these strange flying objects aren't just a local issue. Whether spy drones or UFOs, authorities are on high alert as they work to uncover the truth behind these mysterious objects in our skies. Tensions are rising. Christian says 20 drones were seen, and they were in the air for over 2 hours and flew out to sea. Interesting. Similar to what we heard in the New Jersey incidents. Being in the air for a really long time. Russia doesn't have the financial means to globally deploy this level of incursion, Richard says. I don't know, guys. I don't know if these things are coming from the sea and going out to the sea. Can we put any stock into these, rumored submarines that are launching all these armadas of drones, presumably from China, as we've been told by people like Stephen Greer? Something I'm going to talk about a little bit later. Get ready for a few expletives. I got some things to say about Big Muscle Greer. But yeah, interesting story. Christian, please keep us updated, man, about what's going on over there. I'm really curious. It's interesting that these things are happening in waves. It started, it's always happening. Defense writer for The Debrief, Tim McMillan, did say drone incursions happen every single day, all across the world. 600 incursions in the U.S. alone last year, something like that. But that we're hearing about it in waves. The UK first, over U.S. military bases. Weird. And then it moved to the U.S. and was over New Jersey. And now it's moving over to places like Denmark and over in Germany. It was happening. It's weird. Like, who's next? Who is next? Why are we not hearing any reports out of China? Tis the question. I don't know where I was going with that. We have videos of the drones in Cog and even more south, Christian says. Wow. Keep us posted, man. I can't wait to hear any updates on this. But we are going to move, guys, to... one more thing. Dalen says, Chinese, Turkish, Indian, and Russian language spy gear was found by Finnish authorities on one of the tankers that cut the cables. I don't know. Everyone's spying on everyone. Number one rule. No one. Yep, exactly, Suzanne. Everyone is to blame. But what is going on over there, Christian? What's going on, man? Let's move to Canada, right? Let's get a little palate cleanser. Our neighbors to the north. I know Suzanne is traveling right now. She may or may not have hit North America. May see the Atlantic. Not going to say anything further, but she knows as well as I do the friendliest people in the world over there. And it seems like they're interested in UAP. So this is going to bring us to our last story of the night, guys. This comes to us from the Black Vault over there with John Greenwald. And this is really interesting. The title of this one is Canadian Parliment Member Larry McGuire met with David Grusch more than a year before the Congressional UFO Hearing. The 51st state. All work, low pay. Don't you dare. Don't even get me started. I don't even know why I read that out. Oh, my blood. My blood is boiling. Where's my beer? Unboil my blood, Pacifico. Unboiled. Okay. Let's get to this awesome story over at the Black Vault. Newly released documents obtained under Canada's Access to Information Act have revealed details of a meeting between Larry McGuire, Canadian Member of Parliament, and David Grusch. And it claimed that David Grusch claimed the UFO whistleblower and a senior intelligence officer with the U.S. National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. But before we get to the meeting, guys, I want to give a little setup to who Larry McGuire is and his interest in this topic. He has had an interest in UFOs and UAP for a little while now. And as we'll learn in this clip, and as we'll learn from this meeting, this could be why. his interest is so big. So, yeah, let's watch this clip from CTV News where they interviewed McGuire back around the same time when this meeting took place. So that's interesting. I didn't even mean to do that. I'm like, I know Larry McGuire's been interviewed about UFOs. Let me see what I could find. And I found this clip, and then I cross-referenced it with this meeting. They took place within days of one another. Crazy, crazy. So go ahead and give this a watch, and then we're going to talk about the meeting itself and what was uncovered about that. So give this a watch.
About this when I saw it in the New York Times in 2017, the front page story, talk about the Pentagon dealing with wanting to study it more with their military personnel. Then you get the Director of National Intelligence indicating that there's some reality to the subject. And then, of course, the co-sponsored report that was put forth in legislation in Congress by bipartisan units in Senator Gillibrand and Senator Rubio. That's quite a combination to be able to interest the American people. We don't have that in Canada right now, and I think that I've taken it upon myself to put some questions to the National Resources Committee.
Well, what can you share with me about what the Canadian military has seen? Or certainly I know of some of the Canadian sightings out there, but share a little of that with me.
Well, we know that there's been some sightings in some of near or around some of our nuclear facilities. There's been sightings across the whole country. There's been data that's been gathered in a couple of areas, but we haven't had very much public discourse on this at all.
We were just talking to Lou Elizondo, and I asked him about Canadians being briefed. We know that you've been briefed on some of this previous report.
I met Mr. Elizondo myself about a year and a quarter ago or so had a briefing with him. That's after he left the U.S. military to become more public and getting the information more public. We know that we don't know whether the Prime Minister has been briefed in Canada. My colleague in Defence on our side of the House has put forward a statement on it as well. But other than that, there's been very little discourse. We do know that the Minister has been briefed in Canada, but beyond that, there hasn't been very much discourse. And so what I'm trying to do is say that we need to have a parallel program to what the United States already has in accumulating this information in a common area. And we think that just with the objective to determine what the origins and intent of these UAP are, and it should be probably discussed and done through the Canada Chief Science Advisor, which is Dr. Niemer in Canada.
Well, I want to ask you about that. In this public hearing, they said that they are working with NASA, they're working with our allies. I'm assuming that might mean Five Eyes. What would you like them to share? They seem to be dealing it more from a national security issue, but Canada isn't.
Well, I think we need to be careful with that, but we need to move forward with hopefully a nonpartisan party here in Canada as well. If there's any issue that we can be nonpartisan on in Canada, it should be this one. And I think that we've got an opportunity to bring the discourse to a more public realm and just have a recognition of what's already taken place in the legislation passed and the reports that have come out of the U.S. We know that these objects, these phenomena do not know what borders are, so we need to take into consideration that this is a North American airspace, and these things transcend into both of our nations and the United States. So there is an opportunity there to discuss these things more openly. We just haven't got the discourse going here, I think, to even get our Canadian people to say, oh, well, we're in much of a conjunction with the discussions with the U.S. I'm interested in the discussion just from an inquisitive nature, as well as what could be there in regard, and because we don't know what the intent of these phenomena are, or any other serious nature that may be in their development.
All right. There we go. Kind of a precursor to what we're going to talk about here, guys. And that is the meeting that Larry McGuire had with David Grusch. This isn't alleged. This is documented. We have the entire correspondence and documents that were released in the show notes linked. So you can go ahead and read those in full. But we're going to kind of briefly go over the highlights from it. And I do want to make a correction as well. I said that this story came to us from the Black Vault. It did. However, John Greenwald also gives credit to the original person who was the one to obtain these files. And that is a open source researcher named Steve Tay, who, if you're not following on Twitter, I highly suggest doing that. I believe I posted this story a couple days ago on our Twitter. So you could find Steve Tay's Twitter account handle there. But let's get to the meeting, right? Like, we know that he met with Lou Elizondo, interesting. But now we're learning that he actually met with Dave Grusch, which actually piqued my interest, and I know a lot of you a bit more, especially with the huge claims that David Grusch has brought forward, and especially with Larry McGuire wanting to work with the U.S. and have a program that kind of works in cohesion with something like ERA. They're doing good. They got Sky Canada going on, which is awesome. So let's get to that. Let's get to the meeting that took place. And then I did put a poll up on YouTube. I will read the results of that after this. This meeting supposedly took place right around the time that this interview came out. The meeting took place on May 31st, 2022. The documents uncovered by Steve Tay were after a lengthy appeal process, and they provide partial insights into the exchange, but are heavily redacted, leaving significant questions unanswered. However, let's get to it. The meeting between McGuire and David Grusch. Let me put them up on the screen so you're not just staring at me the whole time. Larry McGuire looks like someone I want to hang out with. I'm just going to say it. The meeting between McGuire and Grusch took place over a year before Grusch's public testimony before the U.S. Congress in July of 2023 and prior to his April 2023 Defense Office of Pre-Publication and Security Review, DOPSR, approval for publicly discussing information related to UAPs. This timing raises important questions about whether Grusch, who discussed highly sensitive topics with a foreign government official, had the necessary authorization or assurances that what he disclosed was unclassified. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I mean, I always think of Canada as us, as Americans, but he is a foreign government official. Despite the unclassified designation of the meeting, the extensive redactions in the documents suggests that the topics discussed were considered sensitive enough to warrant shielding from public view, adding to the controversy surrounding Grusch's role and the international dimensions of UAP discourse. The meeting notes document McGuire asking Grusch 14 detailed questions about UAP-related issues. Grusch's responses touched on topics such as U.S.-Canadian collaboration on UAP investigations, NORAD's involvement, and theories about UAP activity near nuclear facilities. Notably, Grusch mentioned the existence of compelling UAP footage held by the U.S. government, which he suggested could help acclimate the public to the reality of the phenomena. He also referred to historical Canadian research efforts, such as Project Magnet, led by Wilbert Smith in the 1950s, indicating a potential historical role for Canada in gathering and studying UAP data. In discussing current U.S.-Canadian interactions, Grusch described limited cooperation between the two nations, citing classified meetings between the U.S. National Intelligence Manager for Aviation and the Royal Canadian Air Force earlier that year. He also emphasized the necessity of physical evidence to determine the origins of UAP, highlighting the limitations of relying solely on passive data collection, such as radar and infrared sensors. Yet many of his statements were obscured by redactions, which included entire answers to several key questions posed by McGuire. Little bit more here, you guys. The redactions themselves raise critical questions about the transparency of the meeting and the information exchanged. Canadian authorities justified the redactions by citing potential harm to international relations, specifically with the U.S. Despite these justifications, it remains unclear why a meeting believed to be unclassified would require such extensive redactions. Since June of 2023, the Black Vault has been pursuing an FOIA request with the NGA to obtain emails from David Grusch's inbox containing a comprehensive list of UAP-related keywords. This request holds the potential to unveil an extraordinary inside look at Grusch's UAP-related activities, including his meeting with Larry McGuire and possibly much more. However, as of the day that this article was published on the Black Vault, which I should say was about 3 or 4 days ago, guys, the Black Vault has been informed by the NGA that the request is approximately number 200 on the agency's backlog list, with an estimated completion time stretching to 22 to 25 months. Not days. At least not years, but months. So it could be a while, guys, before we hear anything about any further elaborations on this meeting or other emails and keywords that Grusch has used in his emails. Man. Crazy stuff. Cuckoo bananas, man. What a story. What a scoop. Very well done, Steve T. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear what happens with all of this. And, that the U.S. isn't as working with as closely with Canada as we all might think. I don't know. Things are ramping up. It is going to be an interesting 2025 with this topic, guys. I have no doubt. Speaking of that, the poll. Let's get to the poll. I wanted to know, since we were covering David Grusch tonight, where is he? What's going on? Suzanne and I have talked about this on several live streams in the past. He's dealing with a lawsuit right now. Maybe we'll talk about that next week, like where all of that is and what's going on with that. But he has been laying low, not even on the ground. Dude is freaking hollow earthing it at this point. We've heard nothing from him about him. This is the first time we've heard his name mentioned in a while when it comes to this meeting that took place. So I put a poll up over on YouTube, and I wanted to know, let me refresh it just in case. I asked, will we hear anything from David Grusch in 2025? And I put, this was weird. I tried to do the poll and they wouldn't let me put other options. They would only let me do yes or no. That's a first. So might just be a glitch with YouTube. But I asked, will we hear anything from David Grusch in 2025? Out of 110 votes, 67% of you said yes. 33% of you said no. So there you go, guys. There are your official thoughts on if we will hear from David Grusch in 2025. I do think we are. I really do think we are going to hear something. We were teased by Tim McMillan of The Debrief that he was personally coming out with an article about David Grusch over at The Debrief sometime in the new year, maybe in the next, who knows, week, month, couple days. I don't know. I have no information on that, but that might be interesting. I know it doesn't have to do with this meeting. It actually has to do with the findings of the Inspector General in the investigation that David Grusch had going on. So that's going to be interesting, to say the least. So, yeah, maybe that's what we're going to hear. Maybe we're going to hear from further witnesses. Maybe we're going to get more congressional hearings. What do you guys think? Are we going to get another hearing in 2025? Do you want another hearing? Last one didn't seem to go as well as the first. In terms of like content brought forward, maybe, the more sensational claims that were made by Grusch in the first hearing. It was just not what we had hoped for. So will we get what we hope for in 2025 when it comes to that? I don't know. Lots of folks talking about a big event in 2025, 2026, 2027, thereabouts. Duncan says, yeah, right. Until that big event is moved back to 2028 and then 2029. No, we've heard it all before, guys. We've heard it all before. Speaking of which, there's a lot of we covered the trigger warning right here about combat, Afghanistan, suicide. We did talk about the Cybertruck incident last week in depth with Suzanne, and people have been really applauding that episode about what we brought forward and some of that stuff. So thank you to everyone who reached out to us personally and through social media. We're just in the dark as much as you guys on a lot of this, but we're trying to wade through the misinformation, the possible disinformation, and just the morbid ambiguity of the entire event itself. So yeah, all that being said, I do want to say something tangentially related to this, because it really didn't upset me, but it got me a little irked, and that was claims made this week on several interviews by Stephen Greer, that he is now claiming that the Cybertruck incident individual was one of his whistleblowers that was going to be coming forward in 2025 about UAP. There's two ways to look at this. There's the Stephen Greer just making sensational claims again, not backed up by anything. Yeah, exactly, Suzanne. If I could show you the notes she digitally passes me, guys. There's two ways we could look at this. Just another audacious, bold claim by Stephen Greer. Three ways we can look at this. Second one being it's true, and he might have the documentation and stuff, correspondence with this individual to back that up. And if so, that is going to be an interesting story moving forward. The third option is Stephen Greer has been known in the past to do this, where he has used individuals who have died or passed on and has claimed to have corresponded with them, and they have told him deathbed confessions, earth-shattering information, and only to me, Stephen Greer, the former whatever, doctor, surgeon, whatever the heck he did. If this is the case, that he is exploiting the death of this clearly mentally unwell individual who did this act, and it's not true, burn in hell. It's as simple as that. I could, really go through the other things I want to say to Stephen Greer. But if this is the case and he cannot back any of this up, yeah, get that barbecue going down there, buddy, for sure. Horrible, disgusting if this is not true. If it is true, I'll eat crow. I want to see the documentation and the evidence, however. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, guys. But I did just want to point that out because I've seen people sharing it and talking about it. And I am one of those people who really respected the early work of Stephen Greer. I could say that. And I'm also very open to CE5. However, it's claims like this and things like this that just, give me that 180 and be like, what the hell are we doing here, guys? What are we doing? What are we doing? So, yeah, I just wanted to get that out there. I think, if you could back this up, cool. Let's hear it. Let's see it. Prove it to us. If not, horrible, horrible thing that he has done. I think that's it. Let me double check, guys. Yeah, that's all we got for tonight. Much shorter show than usual, which is awesome. You guys can go have the rest of your night. Suzanne can as well. My day's getting started about 1:30 here. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of the day. The possibilities are endless. But all of that being said, guys, I do want to thank you once more for joining us tonight, an hour later than usual. So I do apologize. Hopefully next week we'll be back at our normal time. I'll be on the East Coast next week, somewhere. I'm not sure yet, but I will let you guys know on social media if we're going to be able to do the live stream and all that. But before we go, again, if you do want to help out the Pasadena Humane Society, now is your chance to get those last super chats or super stickers in. PayPal, buy me coffee, whatever you want to do to help them out over there in Los Angeles and the greater California area. all of your donations will go there tonight. So thank you. Thank you in advance for everyone who did donate, who will donate in the future when they hear this. And thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I know the animals there at the Pasadena Humane Society and the people working there will appreciate it as well. This is also your last chance to really get in your Apple Podcast rating and reviews. Again, go over to Apple Podcasts, rate and review Somewhere in the Skies podcast, and be sure to send me a screenshot of your rating and review. You could send that to our email address in the show notes or through DM on Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, you name it. We got the DMs open. So be sure to do that so I have proof, and you'll be entered into our contest to win the first volume of the Blue Book comic book and also a surprise gift from me as well. And on our last note, dropping tonight for you guys, we have a brand new episode of the podcast, Lesser Known UFO Incidents. I am covering some UFO cases you have never heard of. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Yeah, that's my shout out to even you veteran UFO researchers. Some of you ain't heard of some of these. I can pretty much guarantee that. You probably heard of some of them. But my special thanks to Marcus Loth, one of my co-researchers and co-writers and over here at Somewhere in the Skies, for helping me put this episode together. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. I had a blast making it. So be on the lookout for that dropping just a couple hours for you guys. And yeah, that's going to be super exciting. I want to give a special thanks to Duncan for the $20 super chat going towards the Pasadena Humane Society. Thank you, buddy. And thank you to everyone. I see your messages and I love you. And I'm so happy that you joined us this week. I hope you found it insightful, and I hope you'll join us hopefully next week for another live stream. Be sure to rate, review, subscribe, like, leave a comment below, all that good stuff. And that's going to do it. Again, my special thanks to Suzanne for holding it down tonight in the chat, doing a great job as always. So thank you, regulars. Thank you, new people. Thank you, Twitch watchers, Twitter watchers, wherever you're watching from. We truly do appreciate it. And that's going to do it, guys. So I will leave you, as always, with our mantra here, and that is to keep your feet on the ground, but never stop searching somewhere in the skies. Aloha.
There's nothing to hide. There's nothing to hide at all.